6 years ago, I was sitting on my hospital bed at Princess Margaret Cancer Hospital in downtown Toronto, and a doctor told me I had 4 weeks to live. And a simple word, a three-letter word, yes, saved my life. I also call that the 3% decision that saved my life. At that point in time, things didn't look very good. I had a tracheotomy in my throat so I could breathe. I had a G-tube in my stomach to receive nutrients because I couldn't swallow. I was on a daily dose of morphine to keep me out of pain. And I had to sign a do not resuscitate order because at any point in time, the tumor could choke me and I could suffocate. Things looked rather rough. My weight had dropped all the way down to 132 pounds. My radiation oncologist had told me to get my affairs in order, but I couldn't speak. So I had to get my good friend Todd to make my funeral plans. At that point in time, people were looking at me with that look of not knowing what to say. I call it cancer eyes, and I couldn't blame them because it didn't look like I was coming back. My brother and my sister were there. The parish priest came to visit. When something like that happens to you, no seems rather obvious. No to more pain, no to more treatments, just rest. My body had been through hell. 6 months of radiation and chemotherapy. I was exhausted. A trip to the bathroom was like a trip to Europe. I asked my medical team for a new solution. I said to them, I'm still here and I want to keep going. I hoped, I prayed, and then 3 days later, a new medical oncologist came into my hospital room. Her name is Dr. Lillian Su. She introduced to me a concept called immunotherapy. This is a new drug that will actually open your T cells to attack your cancer cells. It had been proven successful with lung cancer, but never before tried with throat cancer. The odds of success, just 3%. And it would mean 2 more years back in the chemo ward, where the pain and the suffering was a daily occurrence. Would you like to try, she said. Now I'll step back. What would you do? At that point in my life, I had and still do, a very successful business, but more importantly, a beautiful wife, 3 great children, a couple of houses, the Porsche, the Mercedes, a life insurance policy because it was a possibility. And I thought to myself, maybe it's just time to give up. Maybe it's time to let go. But then a little voice came to me, a voice that had been around most of my life. What if we said yes, just one more time? I thought, I prayed, and a day later I decided yes to the trial. Within 2 weeks, I actually got my speech back. A week later, I was able to hear again. Dr. Lillian sent me home. While at home, 2 weeks after that, one day I started coughing uncontrollably. I thought this may be the end. 911 was called, and as the ambulance was arriving at my home, I actually coughed up 2 tumors the size of silver dollars, ejected. The doctors called it a miracle. There's even a University of Toronto case study on it today. And here I am 6 years later, cancer-free, or as in the cancer industry, we call it NED, no evidence detected. While that may be remarkable, what is more remarkable to me is what that yes gave me back. It gave me back the opportunity to be there, to see my first grandchild, Teddy, being born, to be able to brainwash him into becoming a Montreal Canadiens fan, to see my second grandchild, Vivian, and to be able to brainwash her because she has so much energy into becoming a future entrepreneur. And then the third grandchild, Lucy, who's probably the best dressed young toddler in Toronto and has her own TikTok channel at the age of 1. I was also there to see the marriage of my son to his lovely wife, Claire, in Chevy Chase, Maryland. And perhaps most importantly, because it was unfinished business that I worried about, I was there to take dance lessons at Arthur Murray's studio for 3 months so that I could be there to dance the father and daughter dance for my youngest, Jennifer, at her wedding. And during that dance, she reached over to me and said, "Dad, I'm so glad you're here." And as I walked off the dance floor, I said, man, to myself, wow, I almost said no to this. Every great experience in my life has started with a yes. Yes to going to an unnamed college, Hamilton College in Clinton, New York, when I was 18 years old, to get a hockey scholarship and play and good education. That led to a job with Senator Ted Kennedy. Yes to marrying my lovely wife, where we have 3 great kids and a great family. And yes to going back to school at age 37 with a mortgage and 3 children, of course, and that led to a job at Microsoft and a great career. And then finally a yes to starting my own business when the odds were incredibly against me and taking out a $500,000 loan, which is a relaxation strategy I don't recommend. And that turned into a multi-million-dollar company. And as the circle goes, we now give about $1 million back to charity and just recently funded an immunotherapy specialist back at Princess Margaret. Success is a funny thing. When we have it, oftentimes we gravitate to no, it's not safe. No, there's too much risk. But safety is not the same thing as growth. Neuroscience even supports this. Neuroscience tells us that when we say yes to growth experiences, the brain releases dopamine, which is a chemical responsible for motivation and creativity. So, when we think about it, saying yes rewires our brains for growth, and the brain is rewired for growth. As I conclude today, my hope for you is the next time you have a massive challenge, something you're not unsure of, I'd like you to notice your instinct. Is it risk? Is it fear? And ask yourself one question. If you said yes to that opportunity, how could it unfold? Because 6 years ago, when a doctor asked me, with a 3% chance of living, would you like to say yes to this trial? I said yes, and that yes gave me a second chance at life. So as we go forward, please say yes to opportunities.